Welcome to the Cinephiles, everybody. It's the KARE 11 Plus show where three movie lovers get together to talk all things film. In each episode, we're going to highlight new releases that we think you should see, maybe not see. I don't know. Sometimes we get a little debate going here, but we also dive into the films that we love in our Cinephiles gift. Cinegift. Sounds like a sugary snack. Like a Cinegift?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sure.
I digress. The first movie we're talking about is The Long Walk.
Hey, I'm Harkness.
Hey, Harkness.
You're Ray Garrity, hometown boy, number 47.
Yeah.
McVree, strong, 23. Suppose you're wondering why I'm writing down everybody's names and numbers.
No, I wasn't wondering.
Maybe because you were the squads.
Me? No. I'm writing a book, you see? A book about the long walk.
I see that.
Yeah. A book about the long walk from the insider's point of view. Make me rich.
All right, so this is based on a Stephen King story. He published it in 1979 under his pseudonym Richard Bachman, and it was actually the first novel that he ever wrote. And it's absolutely one of my favorite Stephen King books. And the story is it takes place in a kind of a fascist dystopian America where there's a countrywide contest where 50 boys, one from each state, all around the age of 18, can sign up for a national lottery. It's not mandatory, but everybody does it because they're kind of complicit in this sort of fascist ideology that's going around. And the contest is just that they walk, and the last one standing gets untold amounts of money and one wish granted. So the rules are that if you step off the road, you get shot. If you lose pace under 3 miles an hour, you get 3 warnings, and then you're shot. It's a brutal, unflinching story. This was directed by Francis Lawrence, who made the last 4 Hunger Games stories.
It sounds a little like Hunger Games.
A little bit, yeah. And I can see
there.
how that, maybe was drawn from The Long Walk a little bit. But this is, those are PG-13 rated movies. This is an hard R movie.
Hard R.
And, you're seeing a lot of violence. You're seeing what it's like to walk endlessly for hundreds of miles without stopping, without being able to relieve yourself to stop, and you're also getting to know all these characters. Wonderful character and wonderful ensemble here. Cooper Hoffman, who is Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, is kind of the genial lead. There's David Johnson, who is from Rye Lane, if you saw that. He's kind of the heart of the group, and you just get to know all these characters and really fall in love with a lot of them. And then there are some kind of antagonists there, because there always is in a Stephen King story, who are trying to use the competition to their advantage. I think this is just a wonderful movie. I saw this with a crowd that was really, I think, engaged in what was going on and how it relates to what's going on in the U.S. today. I think this is a movie that doesn't pull punches, and you feel like you just got hit in the gut. And I know that maybe we don't want to feel like that all the time, but I think this is a movie that people need to see. It's one of my favorite movies of the year, and absolutely one of the best Stephen King adaptations.
You sounds like Seven mixed with Mr. Beast.
It's not for the faint of heart. I'll admit it. But if you're into Stephen King, if you're into the Hunger Games, that sort of thing, check it out, because I felt just a range of emotions. You're laughing, you're crying. Judy Greer, for instance, who's normally a comedian, plays Cooper Hoffman's mother, and she's only in 2 scenes, but you see on her face kind of like the devastation of watching her son enter into this contest and without really knowing what's in store for him. And it was all kind of an allegory at the time Stephen King wrote it, as like a allegory for the Vietnam War draft, and how there was literally a televised lottery where names were picked out, and it's very much, people were just signing up and they didn't know what they were getting into. At that time, it was an allegory for that. Today, I think it's commenting on other things that are going on.
Interesting. Why do they seem so eager in the beginning? Do they not know that they were killed?
I don't think they realize the reality of it. They begin to experience, pretty much right away how brutal it can be. And then they start to realize they maybe have made some mistakes. There's one guy who signs up, and he's a writer, and he wants to write a book about it. That assumes that he's going to win.
That's what I was going to say, but all of these kids think, well, I'm healthy enough, I'm fast enough, I'm fit enough.
Wow.
They may not have been able to survive this, but I can survive this.
There's one guy who's like
And I don't think they know that they can't survive this.
Right. There's one guy who's like an Adonis, who's like, physically fit, and I won't spoil what happens to him, but pure Stephen King irony for this character. I mean, it's a fascinating story. It's very faithful to the book. They made some slight changes, but very faithful. Just a great movie. I can't recommend it enough.
Wow. Okay. What did you rate it?
This is a must see.
It's a must see.
Yeah, don't miss it.
And for the faint of heart, so if you don't like gore, or if you don't like,
I will say that there's a few bits of violence in it that are really brief but very, very impactful.
Okay.
It's not like it's not like a horror movie where it's putting the camera right in the gore and enjoying it. Like it's like watching a war movie almost, where it's very brief, very sudden, and but unflinching.
all right, outstanding, good deal. Yeah. You guys know what I got? Thanks to you. I got a screener.
Chris's
I
first
got a
screener.
screener, which means I watched this new movie that hasn't been released yet on my phone, or most of it.
On your
I almost got
phone?
Where am I supposed to watch it?
Christopher Allen.
Where am I supposed to watch it?
You can
Your
get
laptop,
you
your
can get
computer,
an
your-
app on a Roku or whatever streaming device you have that will put it on your TV.
Well, it's my first one. I
There
didn't
you
know
go.
this.
Yeah.
It was also really, really good on my phone. It was fantastic. The movie we're talking about is called The History of Sound. Let's take a look.
Put your hand on your throat. Now hum. Feel something? Like a vibration? The sound is invisible, but it can be physical. It can touch something. It can make an impression.
All right, so this movie is directed by, is it Hermanus?
Yes.
Is that right? Oliver?
Yep,
Did I say it
Oliver
right?
Hermanus.
Okay, so it's written by Ben Shattuck. Paul Mescal's the star. We just saw him in Gladiator 2. He's phenomenal. Josh O'Connor. Chris Cooper, you know him from The Patriot, American Beauty, etc. But this is a story, it's hard to really summarize. This is a story about the life of a man during the era of World War II. This is the early 1900s. It's more or less a love story, but it's also a story about music. Before there were really any music that we know of today. This is like about recording records. It's about cataloging culture. So it's a man's search for happiness, it's a man's search for love, and it's also there's a devotion to folk music in this story. And I'll just go first if you don't mind. I absolutely loved it. It was boring at times, it was a little slow at times, but the movie making hit me in so many different ways. And what it did is it reminded me that for pretty much all of Earth's history, about the last 30 years, there was a different pace to life. There was seemingly a different goal to life. Things were slow and felt deeply, and singing a song together in a bar was like a great night. And recording someone's voice from a song that no one on earth has ever heard was like a huge thing. And it's also the search for love in a time when being a gay man was not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. So I absolutely loved it, and I wouldn't be surprised if it wins a number of awards.
All right.
I also loved it. I let Chris introduce it because I was so excited that Chris actually saw one of the movies that we were talking about. Not this. I love Josh O'Connor. I love Paul Mescal. So I was going to see it no matter if everybody hated it or not. And I agree, it was kind of boring at times and slow. But in those moments, I think it reminded me that we're in such a fast-paced environment these days, and I have ADHD, so I can't just sit still and just focus when I'm not getting dopamine or when I'm not being stimulated or whatever. And I had to consciously be like, pay attention, this is good, you're enjoying this, just let it breathe and feel what it's trying to make you feel. And when I was actively doing that, I was like, okay, it's not actually so boring. Heck
See?
yeah.
That was my point.
Yes, it was your point. And I agree wholeheartedly with that point.
So I do like slow cinema. There's actually a whole kind of genre of slow cinema where kind of the absence of anything happening is supposed to make you feel more. I had different problems with this movie that don't relate to its slowness. Slowness doesn't bother me at all. I think there's a couple things that in the details where, for instance, in the opening narration, they talk about Paul Mescal's character having this gift to be able to see sound. So he can look at a color or a rock or a frog and see its sound. That's a very abstract idea that they introduced early on. I don't think they ever really explored that in a way
They did not.
where,
Good point.
they could have visualized that somehow or maybe just not introduced it. But if there's a metaphor there, I didn't understand what the metaphor was.
I understood like the feeling sound. I didn't understand the seeing sound or relating it to a color.
Right.
Because like when he's around the fire, he's spinning around and his eyes are closed and he's just, enjoying himself. So I understand the feeling part, but you're right. I didn't see the whatever they were trying to do with the feeling. Or
There
the
were, however,
seeing.
a lot of colors that were stylized throughout the movie. The lighting of the paper that lifts into the air. Everything is drab because there's really no lights. This is like pre-light kind of, pre-light bulb, et cetera, electricity. But colors played a big role in the emotional parts of the film.
I mean, the way that it's shot, and like I can't fault the filmmaking at all. Apart from maybe like one CGI moth in there early on in the movie, but the cinematography and the way it's all put together is beautiful. I mean, this is a pristine looking movie. I just think that, particularly, there's a point in the movie about a little bit before midway through where Josh O'Connor is no longer in the movie. For the most part, and he is such a dynamic actor.
Sure is.
And he adds so much to this movie. Like, he is so alive.
Don't even get me started on this man.
He's great. And in comparison to Paul Mescal, who is pretty muted and pretty restrained, I think the first half of the movie was so alive, and his absence in the second half just felt like deflated the whole movie for me. And I realize that's partly the point. Like, we're supposed to feel his absence, and we're supposed to feel sadness, relate to his sadness. And I got that. I think I could have done 15 minutes of that with Paul Mescal meandering around Europe and kind of thinking about his lost love for more than an hour. I don't know. I feel like the heart of that movie was in the first half, and the second half, it was so restrained and so like pristine that it sort of squeezed the life out of the movie.
But wasn't that the point? Hold on. He went to Italy or Sicily, wherever he was, and he fell in love with this young man.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm out. He's peace. I don't love you.
Yeah.
And then he moves on to England, falls in love with this woman, but he's like, you're not my soulmate. Peace. I'm out.
Yeah.
So the second half of the movie, the point was he was missing his true love.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I understand that. I understand the point. I'm just saying the hour and 15 minutes that we spend with him, Paul Mescal is so restrained, again, compared to Josh O'Connor, that for whatever reason, maybe it's my fault, but I can't deny how I felt, that I was just not as engaged with the second half.
I don't think it's your fault. It's okay.
No, I know, but that's just my response. Was that
I'm into it.
Yeah.
But like, as a master of film, which you are, the scene where he first falls in love in the beginning.
That's my new title.
Master of film, Master of the universe, where he falls in love in the beginning, and there's a shot overhead as they're going up to his apartment. You're wondering if they're going to get romantic or not, or if it's just a buddy-buddy thing, or it's romantic. And there's a shot of both of their arms touching the railing, and that's all the shot is.
Yeah.
And it's almost brisk touch. It was a masterful shot. And then there was the scene where he's, for the first time, trying to teach these kids how a record is recorded, etched. I thought these scenes, like, you just don't get that kind of filmmaking in most movies, period. I thought it was really high end.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, but there's just something that spark of a great movie that just wasn't there for me, particularly in the second half. There's no logic. It's just something I didn't feel. Whereas, you mentioned Brokeback Mountain. I think these are two very similar movies in the sense that they're both, about gay men in a period of history where their relationship wouldn't be allowed. They kind of hit their prime while they're camping. They're both separated. The one kind of less dynamic character is the one who kind of goes on with the story, and you kind of find out what happened to the more dynamic character later. I mean, the structures are pretty close. And for that movie, I don't know, I felt all the emotions. Maybe it was the structure or how it was edited in Brokeback Mountain that kept me with it, but this one just didn't. I feel like it was so like classy and so pristine through most of it that it kept me at a distance.
We're also sleeping on the music.
Dude,
The
music
folk
was
music
great,
is
yeah.
unbelievable. If you like
Unbelievable.
old folk records or old jazz records, like you have to see this movie.
Yeah,
What did
it
you
was
rate it?
great. I'd say try it.
I would say see it.
I say see it, but I probably won't watch it again. It's one of those movies that I
It's
really, really,
very
really
emotional.
enjoyed, but it makes me feel a lot of different stuff that I really don't grab. I'd be in the right mood. Look at that. Look at this thing flipping right now. See, we got a glitch. Well done.
I hope no one has epilepsy.
All right, and you talked to a number of the cast members on this show?
Only Chris Cooper
Oh,
and
okay.
Oliver Hermanis, the director, Paul Mescal and Josh O'Connor are very booked and busy. So they're too good. They're busy. They don't have time for me, which is fine.
Okay, so
No shade.
Not only did we get the privilege of a screener, which is to see the movie beforehand, which is cool, and it kept putting my name up there. Why did it do that? Just to like.
So that you don't plagiarize and put
I
it
don't
on
plagiarize
the
and
internet.
put it on the
if you
internet?
do, they know
Piracy
who
is
it
not a
does.
victimless crime.
Okay, I get it. Got the scarlet letter. But you got a chance to talk to them, to
Yes.
a couple of these actors. How'd it go?
Absolutely. I thought it went very well. We can watch that now, I suppose.
Do it.
I don't know if you have this, but I still have certain sounds or I know when I'm relaxed in a certain part of South Africa when I hear the sound of a certain kind of bird, because that's my association with my childhood.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Music and sound, it makes you feel emotion viscerally. It takes you back to memories.
Totally.
The sound is invisible, but it can be physical. It can touch something. It can make an impression.
The film making an impression in theaters this weekend is Oliver Hermanis' The History of Sound, starring Josh O'Connor and Paul Mescal. The film, based on Ben Shattuck's novel of the same name, sees Paul and Josh as Lionel and David, two men who meet in 1917 while attending the Boston Music Conservatory. After World War I, they traveled together recording folk songs in rural Maine in the summer of 1920.
It's been like a 5-year process to try to get this film made, that Josh and Paul were both attached pretty early on, and that you guys kind of gained notoriety in the years since your initial attempt. How do you think the time between your initial conversations and now kind of formed the character approaches, the way you told the story, and kind of evolved your process in the film?
I think in retrospect, there's always you value this time. At the time that we were sort of trying to put the movie together, there was the frustration of like we've impatiently wanting to make a movie, and then when you look back at it, you go like, oh, but we had all this wonderful time to get to know each other, and Josh and Paul became good friends, and it all helped infuse a sort of a spice into the making of the film. It gave us time to think about the music a lot more. It gave us time to think about the real texture and detail of the characters. There's no downside other than the impatience of it all to the time together, because usually on a movie you get very little time to spend with the cast before you start shooting, especially if they're Paul Mescal and Josh O'Connor. So I can't complain at the fact that with all that time we just got to make a richer film.
Someone who wasn't able to spend a lot of time with Paul working on the film is Chris Cooper, who plays the older version of Lionel Worthing.
Since you're playing an older version of his character, Lionel, as the younger gentleman, did you guys collaborate on your, information of the character, their experiences, or did you kind of just come up with your stuff by yourself?
I only met Paul after the end of my shoot was announced. After it was said, Chris, you're wrapped for this job, Paul came from behind the black curtain and was kind enough to come to set and just say hello for 2 minutes, and that was it. But I think the real work was with Oliver Hermanis, our director, and I trusted his eyes and his ears that we were kind of matching.
What about Lionel and the story of the history of sound was unique to you and kind of drew you to wanting to play an older version of Lionel?
Because that is unique. It is a unique requirement within the script and film that I think it's the first time where I played the older version of a younger character that's within the film, and it was a great concern. I mean, it was a great concern. We've got Paul Mescal, who's an Irish gentleman and with an Irish accent. He had to learn a Kentucky accent. Come to find out, they hired a British accents coach to work with Paul.
Oh, wow.
And it dawned on me, okay, how are we going to match these dialects? And it was very simple. I didn't want to make it difficult, So I tracked down the accents coach and just said, 2 or 3 weeks down the road, after Paul is comfortable with his accent, send me a few days worth of shooting and let me try and match what he's come up with. And I just hope that it worked.
This example of Chris trying to match the way Paul speaks in the film seems like the perfect example of the importance of sound, which plays such a vital role in the film, both as a technical aspect and as a character itself.
I kept sort of trying to think about the essence of sound, because sound is such a powerful tool, even between you and I right now. Like what we're doing right now is kind of insane if you think about the fact that it's such an incredible technology. And I wanted to return to this idea that sound is a aspect of our lives that is incredibly powerful at triggering our emotions and our memory and our feelings, and our lives become a reflection of the connection we have between our senses and the relationships that become defining of our existence. And
is there a particular song or moment in the film that resonated with you, or you hope captures the heart of the film for audiences?
What I really love is that there's this coda in the film where the song that Josh's character David teaches Lionel is a song called "The Unquiet Grave," which is about a woman who's sitting on her dead lover's grave, and he says to her, like, "You've got to let me rest. You've got to go on with your life. You need to accept." And it's then the song that Paul sings back later in the film. And so it's this idea that the songs become codas of storytelling, of emotion, and this oral tradition of teaching somebody a song, and that song then living on inside that other person and passed on to somebody else is the sort of beauty of how music has kind of traveled through centuries.
The music was brought to life by Sam Amidon, who was able to guide and teach Paul to sing with the vocal tonality of this music and open up the genre to the actors as they bring to life the idea of songs becoming a culmination of emotion. Some emotions often hard to tap into otherwise.
How did you get into the mindset of embodying a lifetime of feelings and looking back on a past, and how did you draw on maybe personal experiences?
No, well, I figure at this age, I've lived a pretty good life and had quite a number of experiences, whether they be my relationship with other people and my life experience, what I could bring to the character. There were many similarities. Music was hugely important for me. I originally wanted to be a singer and sang everywhere I possibly could, sang in a band as a teenager in Kansas City where I grew up, sang in church choir, sang in the high school choir. Within the high school choir, there was a male octet. Sang at did the high school musicals. I knew where I was headed, but then I kind of discovered acting and got a little more involved with that. But a lot of points of Lionel's life, fortunately, coincided.
In these press junkets, obviously you answer kind of the same questions over and over and over and over again. And I'm sure now is no exception. Is there anything that you haven't been asked that you've been dying to tell the world about the film?
I mean, I think what's most important for me to say about the film is that it's an experience. It's a bath of some kind. I think that's what I wanted to do. I wanted you to luxuriate in this person's memory, and my intention with the film, I think, is what is important to me. My intention with the film was to make something that you relish in and that you take the time with. I feel like today we are so rushed and everything is so high paced, and we look at our phones all the time. And I'm trying to take everyone back to that moment where you sat in the dark and nothing else mattered, and you just let it wash over you. So that's my great hope with the History of Sound.
All right, welcome back. It is Cinegift time. Again, a sugary snack that we like to give to each other. Just kidding. It's more like a book club. This is where we give each other movies that we love and review them. And so you gave out the Cinegift last time.
That I did. I asked everyone to watch Good Time, which I just adore. It's directed by the Safdie brothers. It stars Robert Pattinson. I'm just so curious about what you guys thought about it that I don't want to just be like, and this is why I loved it, and this is what I think about it. I want to know what you guys think about it first.
Jeez. All right.
You want me to go first?
Please do.
I mean, I will say that every once in a while I make like a top 10. Well, every year I make a top 10 list, and every once in a while I regret not putting a movie on my top 10 list. Certain things age better than other things, and Good Time is a movie that I didn't put on my top 10 list the year that it came out.
Wrong.
I gave it full top marks, like 4 stars, 4 out of 4 stars. But for whatever reason, it just didn't make the top 10. I've revisited this many times over the years and have regrets for not including it. I absolutely adore this movie. I think it's the Safdie's best yet. Yeah. I think maybe that and Uncut Gems are pretty darn close. But one of the best Robert Pattinson performances of all time. He's so dynamic, and just everything he does is electric. I have a feeling you're going to tell us that you hated this.
You have a look on your face.
Yeah. What's happening?
No, I just had an episphany. This is the same director as Uncut Gems?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense because I watch it and I go, this reminds me of Uncut Gems.
Sure. Yeah.
Which means it is a slow, brutal tension, not slow, it is a quick, brutal, tension-building drop into disaster the whole way through.
Correct.
Yeah. I mean, it's a heart attack, like, just waiting to happen.
The whole time.
Yeah. Like, I get a cold sweat watching it.
Yes.
And it's just
very effective
one
tension
thing after
building.
another, and it's so unrelenting, and I love that about it. And then, it's a very smart movie in that I think it's kind of commenting on, white privilege and how Robert Pattinson is this guy who's constantly exploiting people of color to get what he wants. And he's constantly
so manipulative, and he uses the way society functions to his advantage.
And he has all the angles, and as soon as he looks at you, he's sizing you up and figuring out how he can exploit you, and how he needs to change himself in order to get what he wants, and what he needs to say. And he's so quick on his heels, and it never feels like a script. Like, I'm sure they wrote a script. I don't know, but it feels so improvisational.
They wrote a script. They wrote this movie specifically because Robert Pattinson said, "Hey, I got your guys' email from my agent. I saw that you guys made this movie. I want to make a movie with you." And they, for whatever reason, didn't think that Robert was the right fit for Uncut Gems or whatever, because they had been trying to make Uncut Gems for like a decade. And so before Uncut Gems got made, they're like, we can take like 2 months, make a movie.
And that was it.
And that was it. And I don't think Uncut Gems would be as good as it is without Good Time, because I think they learned a lot of things on Good Time because they're so similar in ways.
Yeah. Did we explain what it's about? So Good Time is like two guys botch a bank robbery. Actually, they rob the bank pretty successfully, but then the die packs explode. One of them has a mental disability. They don't ever disclose exactly what it is, but he is quite slow, I guess, on the IQ scale, and has emotional issues as well. But his brother, Robert Pattinson, is also just a scumbag, but he loves his brother, and he loves him so much that he's willing to go in and out of hell or high water to try and save him. And again, it is a rocky fall to the basement dumpster.
What I really enjoy about just the whole premise of the movie and the way that the Safdie brothers approached it is like you said, it's commenting on society and white privilege and all of these things. And when you initially watch it for the first time, you're like, they're wearing blackface. They put masks on.
But why do you say white privilege? No, because he manipulates plenty of white people in it too. It's not a matter of race, in my opinion.
He uses race and the way society views people of color to his advantage to get away with things and or manipulate people to do what he wants.
But no, in my opinion, race has nothing to do with the way he manipulated the cop to get into to get into the hospital room.
Right, but he manipulated.
The other guy was white. The other felon that he kidnapped on accident.
Sure,
yeah.
but he's actually kind of honest with him, I would say.
Yeah.
Same with Jennifer Jason Leigh. He's a little bit more open with her, but he's clearly manipulating her. And he's even deferential to the bail bondsman and kind of respects him.
Fair point.
But everybody else he's acting for.
I think he is a sociopath.
Oh, totally.
He's a sociopath.
Yeah, and he admits it. He goes, I look at the situation and figure out how to use it to my advantage.
He's also a mastermind. And you think this is also what it is, and Uncut Gems is very similar in this regard. It's a look at people who are deeply, deeply flawed, like criminals, felons, like deeply flawed, make the wrong choice people. But there's even disparity between those types of people. And I think he's trying to show that even the most flawed characters have a positive direction. The whole movie is based off his love for his brother.
Oh,
the whole
absolutely.
movie is him trying to find love with his brother.
And I mean, the final scene is very kind of tender when you realize that this is, there's a long sequence of his brother kind of getting therapy and getting the help he needs, and he's getting it through a system, not because of his brother. But you understand why there's a sensitive guy here, and he loves his brother, and this is why he's doing all this stuff. But it's not exactly, the right way to approach this. But
So you loved it. You think it's a top 10 of that year?
I do. I love this film, and I should, if I watched Uncut Gems today, I'd probably come back saying Uncut Gems is my favorite Safdie brothers movie. But I've been
I
following
love
their
Adam
work
Sandler
for
on that.
a long time. They made a movie called Daddy Longlegs that was about just a father with his, I think, 2 kids, and they're just kind of around New York. Same kind of energy, and it's just that same kind of manic quality to it, where it's just relentless and. It's hard to watch, but also you can't stop watching.
It's a car crash.
Yeah.
It is.
And I will say that if you haven't seen Martin Scorsese's After Hours from 1985, one of my favorite Martin Scorsese movies of all time, they're drawing from that a lot, that tone here. And that's just about a guy who goes out into the city at night and has kind of a series of misadventures, and that same kind of energy here is put into this.
I think what's nice about After Hours, Uncut Gems, Good Time, Daddy Longlegs, all of these, Taxi Driver, these movies that are set in New York that are kind of anxiety cinema, but they're not romanticizing New York. So if you're a New Yorker watching like the beginning of Highest to Lowest, where it's the skyline and it's this pretty soundtrack and it's all of these nice things, you're like, oh, I'm romanticizing the idea of New York and the power and the status and whatever. But when you're watching these other movies, it's like you're watching the random guy go out of the bodega at the corner in Queens, and you're like in it in a different way. Yeah. And I think the Safdie brothers do a really good job of like putting you in New York in a way that you don't normally get put in New York.
Oh, it is the dungeons. Yeah, no, you go and it gets worse and worse and worse. You see the poverty of New York. You see that the lights don't work, so they have to turn the TV on to light the room. And then, what's worse than an Adventureland, like a pornographic Adventureland with blinking lights and black lights, and to like just stoke your anxiety levels.
And then just imagining Barkhad Abdi, his character getting that acid, and how just gone he must be in that moment.
Brutal. But it's kind of genius.
It's crazy.
If you're a criminal, it's kind of a genius thing. I don't know how he gets through all this stuff. It's almost like James Bond.
Yeah.
Anyway, I really enjoyed it. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome. One thing that I just want to ask you guys about, because I'm curious if you guys felt the same way, is I think with Good Time, another thing that's really prominent is the use of sound and color to portray how you're supposed to feel and get you into the moments, even though like you may not be really anxious while he's walking through a Domino's or a train station, or you might not think he's in a bad place when he's walking up to Jennifer Jason Leigh's apartment. Did you guys feel like that enhanced your experience watching this movie? The sound and the
totally.
color?
And I do feel that tension because he's walking with determination wherever he goes, and he's got this kind of crazy glint in his eye wherever he goes, whether he's walking down a hallway or wherever he's going. He's determined and he knows what he's after. And the Safdies are so good at putting kind of these like fluorescents and black lights and the glow of a TV and all the color of the dye pack powder or whatever or paint that's on them. It's all these sort of expressive. Yes, we're in a realistic world where we're seeing kind of the real New York, and yes, it's like guerrilla filmmaking where you feel like maybe they didn't have permits for everything. But at the same time, there are these...
That's exactly what it felt like. That's a really good way to describe it.
It's this electronic score that feels like a trippy, kind of like psychedelic.
Yes.
You're just in his weird headspace that's off somehow.
Yes.
And that's what's so fascinating about it. Yeah.
It was gripping the whole way
Benny
through.
Safdie's portrayal of Nick is just phenomenal.
Totally.
I think he's a great actor, and I think he handled playing someone with a mental disability very eloquently as someone who does not have one. Because I know that they talked about casting someone who has a disability in real life, but because it was going to be such a short and extenuous like shoot and like very physical, they didn't want to bring anybody out of their comfort zone and mistreat anybody or do anything like that, and they knew that Benny could act and do it well, and I kind of like that choice.
Yeah, you don't realize how good of an actor he is until you see him in other things and then look back at Good Time and it's like, oh,
he's amazing.
He can play like a loving dad and Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. Or, the character that he plays in Oppenheimer. Like, he's so good. Even though he's a very distinct looking person, he's got a chameleon quality to him that is kind of bizarre, actually.
Yeah.
And Robert Pattinson.
That's what I was going to say. This is my favorite version of Robert Pattinson.
Listen, every single... If you just watch Twilight, you're like, he's a good-looking heartthrob, pretty good actor, I guess. All right, moving on. Every movie that guy's done since then has just dropped my jaw.
Yeah.
He's so good.
He is. So good. Yeah. Between this and High Life, which is a science fiction film that he did with French director Claire Denis,
Or Mickey 17.
Or Mickey 17, yeah. I mean, he's such a great actor, and he's one of the most, along with Josh Connor, one of the most exciting actors.
Yeah. Oh, I could go on and on about Josh O'Connor, but I'm not going to.
All right.
It's fine.
Thank you. That was a great flick.
You're welcome.
I know it's always nice to watch you guys Cinegifts because I know it's always going to be a good movie. And I'm going to stop that right now and right here. It's my turn to give a Cinegift. And because everything has been so heady and so deep and so thought-provoking and so emotional, I'm going to give you something that made me crack up as a child.
Amazing.
The movie's horrible.
Don't say that.
But as a child, I thought it was genius and I loved it. So the movie that I'm going to give you guys, and you at home, is Hot Shots.
Okay. Okay.
Starring
Such a
Charlie
serious look on
Sheen.
your face.
Okay, this is like a Top Gun Rambo remake in the Naked Gun sort of style. It is ridiculous. It's meant to be ridiculous, and I absolutely adored it as a child. And I love revisiting things now that I'm in my 40s to look back and be like, wow, that was absolutely horrible. Or maybe it's brilliant and I didn't realize it, but I like looking through the different filter of adulthood and fatherhood at the childish, terrible things that I used to love.
That's
so we're
fair.
going to watch Hot Shots.
Have you watched it since you were a kid?
Nope.
I can't
watched
wait.
it like a year ago.
Oh my gosh!
I can't wait for whatever conversation is going to come from this, because you said I like a feel-bad movie, and you said I'm sick of feel-bad movies.
Sick of it.
And you the other
Can't do
day
it.
were like, Naked Gun was kind of slapstick. It's not really for me, whatever. And you're so excited about this one. I'm just like, I get to just witness you guys.
I love a good dumb comedy. I do.
And this does it kind of top them all off? This is one of the dumbest movies ever made.
I mean, I'll go full-throated enthusiasm for UHF, that Weird Al Yankovic movie. I mean, stuff like that. Yeah.
Go on.
So I love this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Right.
You can't say it's the stupidest movie ever made when you haven't seen, like, no offense to The Lonely Island, but Pop Star Never Stopping, or like, no offense to Keanu Reeves, but like Generation that one's got like a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I've
It's
never seen that
so
one.
garbage. Don't watch it. So.
All right. You are the Independent Film Critic of the Year. Where can people find your stuff?
I am on deepfocusreview.com. You can find my reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and follow me on Blue Sky or Letterboxd.
Rotten Tomatoes approved. You've been on Rotten Tomatoes.
Kinda, not really.
You were on a movie poster.
I was on a movie poster, but that's because I'm on Letterboxd and I went to Sundance. That's it.
How can people read your stuff?
They don't get to. I just talk
Care11.com.
about it. Yeah, no, sometimes I write for Care11.com. I typically would be news featured on other places, interviews on other places, but mostly if you're looking to find out what I think about a movie, it's Care11.com. Or Letterboxd. Follow me on Letterboxd. That's where it's at.
That was okay marketing. I mean,
I love Letterboxd.
That's great.
I've got a pin on my jean jacket. I love it.
rock and roll. This is episode 9 of the Cinephiles. Appreciate you guys joining us. Do the Cinegifts with us. We want to hear what you think.
Where can they watch it? I don't know that you told me.
You can watch it on Care 11 Plus.
No, not this.
What?
Your Cinegift.
Oh, my Hot Shots?
Hot Shots.
It's on Hulu and Disney Plus, I believe.
Thank you. Because I don't know if you said that, but if you did, one ear out the other. Sorry.
Awkward goodbye.
Always. Have a good day.